tonight, sharing and having some time in prayer. But we're going to read about the healing of the demon-possessed man. They sailed to the region of the Gerasenes, which is across the lake from Galilee. When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had commanded the evil spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him and thrown him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demon into solitary places. Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, because many demons had gone into him. And they begged him repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. A large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus to let them go into them, and he gave them permission. When the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. I mean, that's intriguing there, isn't it? That Jesus was even kind to the demons. Yeah, that's pretty intriguing. When those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed and in his right mind. And I don't think that's lost on anybody who was reading at this time. It said, dressed, sitting at Jesus' feet. You know, whenever somebody sat at somebody else's feet, they were a disciple. They were listening. It was very, that's the way a student was described. Sitting at the master's feet, listening, and that's what he was doing. Those who had seen it told the people how the demon-possessed man had been cured. Then all the people of the region of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them because they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and left. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged to go with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell how much God has done for you." So the man went away and told all over town how much Jesus had done for him. And in other places, we know that there was the Decapolis. There was the 10 cities. He went through the 10 cities telling all that Jesus had done for him. And, that's an amazing story. To see how much Jesus was able to change that man's life such an incredible and drastic way. And, what I want us to do today is just to talk about, and we're going to have a lot of sharing. And I'd like to share one of two things. Either one, what aspect of God, at this time in your life, are you really amazed by? Are you really inspired by? Or two, what is one or two ways that God has just radically changed your life? And what I think that I want to learn from this is how he went out and began to tell how Jesus had changed his life. And I'm not sure how good we are at communicating to people how much Jesus has changed our life. I think that we don't work at it. And because it's not something that naturally we know how to effectively communicate, well, how Jesus has changed my life, without just sounding like every other religious person around, And practice makes what? Perfect. Practice makes perfect. You know, if you do something once or twice, it's hard to, at the end, feel like, hey, I know how to do this effectively. But if you've done something 100 times, 200 times, by that time, you've learned a lot on how to do things. You know, Isaiah talks about God and how his arm is not too short. You know, imagine if we served a God whose arm was too short. And that'd be a pretty pathetic scene, right? I mean, we serve God and he's got short arms. He can't reach all the way down. But God can reach all the way down. And God has reached all the way down to us through words. You know, we have the Word of God which so effectively touches us and touches our heart, touches our life. And I love his prayer. His prayer was an excellent demonstration of what I'm hoping that we will start tonight, but grow in how we're able to express things. How we're able to express how much God has changed my life. You know, we shouldn't be short on words to express to others how God has changed our life, to express to our brothers and sisters how we're feeling, how we're doing. We shouldn't be short on stories that help people see just how amazing and awesome God is. Short on just our own knowledge of who God is. You know, we can go many years just in the shallow, in the shallows, in our depth of knowledge, in our relationship with God. And you know, it's comfortable in the shallows, right? It's warm, all right, you know, it's safe, you know, you're able to breathe easily. When you start going down to deeper waters, it's scary. You don't know exactly what you're going to find. But as we go down deeper, we really, you know, staying in the shallow, yes, it protects us from the things we're afraid of, the unknown. But it also keeps us from the depths of true, deep, abiding happiness. And I think that a lot of times we've been in the shallows for 10 years as a disciple, or 15 years as a disciple. And we're wondering, well, why ain't I happy? Why, you know, I'm supposed to have everything. You know, I have God, I have salvation, but, you know, I'm not fulfilled. You know, I'm supposed to have these deep relationships, and yes, they're different than relationships in the world, but they're not fulfilling. And I think that that's because we have either inadvertently or maybe even purposely stayed in the shallows, you know, and not let people in too deeply. And, you know, there's a lot of things with life as we're getting older that cause us to scratch our head and say, man, if God is a loving God, if God is a good God, how does this still happen in the world? How does he allow this? And these are things that I've had to wrestle through and wrestle with. And the great thing is the answers are in the Word of God. If we go deeper into the Word of God to really find the answers, I mean, they're there. It's awesome. So, you know, so I hope tonight we can just start, you know, and it's one more opportunity to be able to try to put into words, you know, our faith and how we see God and how we see that God has changed our life. Or something right now that we're seeing about God that for us is just like, man, it's been like, you know, maybe, you know, a light's going off as far as like seeing God's grace or seeing God's love or seeing God's wisdom or whatever. So, so we're going to open it up. We're going to have, you know, share on one of those two things. let's try to keep it brief, right? So that we can have more people share, and then at the end we'll have some time of prayer together. Sound good? So, who's wanting to lead us off? Start off?
Let me ask the question. What are the 2 questions?
2 questions. What's something right now in your life you are especially appreciating about God? That you especially are fired up about, just that you've seen in God? Or what are you grateful for as far as how Jesus has changed your life? Something that you see now is that God just changed you and rescued you.